Comeback with Connor on Connor's Life Hour. Back on the podcast after a brief hiatus, which I'm sure we'll touch upon. My guest today, I'm recording in Thailand for the very first time. It is my colleague slash friend from Australia. It's TommysTours, and we're going to talk about travel and a lot more. Welcome, Tommy. How are you?
Hey mate, good, thank you. Good.
It's weird because, as I said, this is my first Thailand guest, and I've only really known you a month, I believe, since I arrived. Yet we've almost instantly connected about travel and just going on this journey of around the world, seeing new places. And for me, sometimes I think, is this the right way to go? Does this ever cross your mind?
Oh, yeah, you definitely question it. But speaking about also how we randomly know each other, I follow Jordan Harkin, who's featured on this episode. And then I met him like in April in Bangkok and then Vietnam. And then we were talking one day and you mentioned Vietnam and it just clicked. And I think you looked at me and like, what? Like, what are you thinking about? And I'm like, you know Jordan Harkin, don't you? He's like, oh yeah, he's been on my podcast. I'm like, I follow your podcast. And so random.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and you work in Thailand. Like you don't work in Bangkok, you work in a small sort of rural country like down Thailand.
Don't be invested. No, it's crazy. I still remember like the quizzical look on your face. You were like,
yeah.
I'm thinking, what's the thinking?
Yeah.
Like, Vietnam, yes. Jordan Harkin, yes. And then you're like, podcast,
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. It's always like click, click, click. I love it. I feel like in Vietnam, where I obviously lived and I've told you, there were so many small circles of so many coincidences, so many different methods where I thought the world is really small. It's really, really tiny. And despite the fact that we've both been to a reasonable amount of nations, I've been to 20, you've been to a lot more, there's still a lot of, I suppose, reminders that the world is so small and everything's similar everywhere.
And I'd relate that back to, you said, do I question whether it's right? Every time, like even teaching, right? I'm surrounded by so many people teaching, that's an immediate tick, being like, you're doing the right thing, right? Even when I went to Nepal, which we'll probably no doubt speak about, surrounded by amazing people, backpackers, that, and that's the stuff I'm missing now. Like teaching's an amazing experience, amazing life experience, so glad I did it, but you start to miss those, little things. You never have everything, and that's a travel thing. I think everyone will agree, you never have everything. So
I can completely relate to this because I often think I should. Right now I'm in Asia and I've been there for a while, but I think I could be in South America.
Well, yeah.
Or I could be in North America, or I could be in Australia, and all of these things. I almost want to be everywhere at once, and you can't ever do that.
No, but I think that's also, like I've been erratic traveling in the past, but that's also what makes it sound right. Like that you want to keep seeing everything. It's like anything, if you want to keep advancing, it's usually the right thing.
Massively.
If I go, that's enough for me, or that country made me rethink travel, maybe travel's not for me anymore, the person. But even friends of mine who feel a bit stuck, right, in Sydney and stuff, I'll be like, why don't you travel for 2 weeks to somewhere crazy? Like, well, I've never been to India, want to do a huge India tour, but I said to my best friend in Australia, Tash, my best girlfriends, why don't you go to India, see what it's like? And you might come back and be like, traveling's not for me, that was too far. But now you have a threshold. And I like saying you need to get out of your comfort zone if you're going to thrive anywhere. So it might be too much, but you might also love that. And you might think, oh, my plans in Australia might change. Whatever. So
I can completely relate to this threshold idea because, for example, let's say, like you've been stuck in a rut somewhere,
of course,
and you might think, oh, England shit, or Vietnam's not working for me, wherever. If you do those 2 weeks, being stuck in a rut in England, let's say, things are pretty much what you already know. But if you do that thing where you go to, let's say, India, just as an example, you will undoubtedly come back thinking or seeing things in a new light, which might lead you to what you want to do.
Honestly, even like I mentioned Nepal. So I left Sydney March 1st, 2022, last year, and I was on the road for about 9 months. Like I just finished 3 months in Africa, which was amazing. We'll get into that later. But then I did a crazy Madagascar to Munich to Kathmandu, Nepal flight. Don't ask me why, I just want to go to Oktoberfest. See a buddy that I met in Africa, so that was cool to connect. But in Nepal, I really started to slow down. And I think that's where I sort of see travel. I'm taking more time now. And Nepal really made me rethink, like concentrating with meditation. I meditated every morning. I was extremely grateful there. And just the mountains are special. I'd say that mountains are just incredibly special to me.
I find this concept of travelling fast versus slow very interesting, because I have in my mind almost an idea of hitting numbers. I've got the goal of 100 countries, but I couldn't quite say why. I think it's just I like to have a goal like that. But I've been thinking recently, I'd rather have, let's just say, 45 incredible country experiences rather than 100 or even more, 120 rushed, average, sporadic ones. How do you personally strike that balance between seeing as many places as possible, but getting the most out of the places when you are there and present?
Well, it's funny, like you said, just ticking them off. So for example, Laos, I've actually been to twice, but both times I've only been for a 3-day border run. Now, a lot of people would be like, oh, but you haven't really travelled to Laos. In my opinion, I'll never be an expert on it. Like, I'm not an expert on Australia, I live there, I'm a native. But, you know, my mind, and it's all about what you think. I've gotten out of my mind what other think, because it's irrelevant, isn't it, really? If you say to me, oh, Tommy, you haven't been there, I'm like, I mean, I crossed the border, I was there, I ate there a bit, I got a general vibe, and Savannaket's not a good reflection of Laos, and I want to explore more, but in my mind I've been there, but I can see it more. I think just having that approach, like it's not like, I've been to Laos, yeah, and it's like, well, you could have seen more of Laos, someone. And that's fine, like maybe I'll get there one day, but I think it's always that initial, I just want to go there and that rush of energy. That's what I really go after. Even last year, I remember that Africa trip, so insane. We went Cape Town through Nairobi, which is right up in Kenya, and then finished seeing the gorillas in Uganda. But something like that, one of my things is just like the new currencies, the new this, the new, just people are different, everything, and it's just, yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah, I find it interesting how that idea of, oh, you didn't really see it, because I've thought of it myself, like say if you only go to a place for a day, but I almost think like, what is the criteria? Like, do you have to have a meal there? Do you have to meet with the locals? Like, and also going to time, how much do you actually want? Like, I could argue that I know a place better if I've been there for 3 days rather than 3 weeks, just based on the actual, I suppose, vibe I got from it. Like, who's the judge of whether you saw it or not and when it's proper?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I get you, and even like I really try not to overthink the social media Instagram thing, but a few really inspirational people I follow, they always talk about like you can go to Bali and get all these platters in a pool, get sexy pics if you like, and be like, hey, yeah, I'm living the life, and that is cool, but would you say that is more traveling Bali? Like if you're doing that for 2 weeks, splurging, cool, like if you have $3 grand to spend on that, would you say that's more travel than me going to Laos, going all budget and really just sussing it out? That's like, you do what you want, and travel will always be about what people want out of it. But I like to stinge it out, I like to backpack, and I don't have the budget to splurge. But I think it makes everything more special, being like, even Franco, one of the teachers, and I, we went there, shared a room, just wanted to like save as much money as we can, but it's just, I think you get a different vibe compared to going to a lonely hotel. Like we were in a cheap hotel, budget one, but a lot of people being like, do you get lonely? Sometimes, but I'd rather be amongst all the backpackers in a cheaper place than alone in a hotel. And being like, oh, I've splurged my money, and like sort of, and that's nice to treat yourself. Even in Thailand, it's lovely. Splurging, well, not even splurging, it's $20 Australian, £10, 500 baht to have a hotel room. And I've been traveling to a few cities, splurged like that, because in Thai baht it's splurging. But you're like, oh, comfy bed, like, yeah, but not in Europe, mate. That's not happening.
No, I believe so. I'll learn that as I do in the future. But I'm also wondering here about the idea of, let's say, if you can splurge and you can put those photographs up, I often think, for example, if you looked at a certain Instagram feed, you would see 20 pictures of Bali, and there is a slightly skeptical voice in my mind that maybe shouldn't be there. Like, who am I to judge this person taking a few Bali pics? Right, cool, it looks nice. But in the back of my mind, I think, did you do this because you wanted to go to Bali, or did you want to tell someone that you've been to Bali?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like, yeah. I worked on just curating my Instagram. Like, it looks cool to me. Like, whether it gets 10 likes, this, that, 100 likes, I try not to like think of it in that way, because I think I mentioned to you the other day when we went for a drink at Flip, something so benign as like, if I think just kind of like my photo, I'm relying on you slowly double clicking while you're almost in the mode of looking at Instagram, because it's a trance. And I catch myself, people call it doom scrolling, and I'll click out after 10 minutes. I try and be very strict. But I'm going to rely on something as benign as you going dun dun to be like some value to me. Because you might have seen it, and like, once again, if you saw it and you liked it, cool. And it's always, I guess, nicer having someone be like, I don't do it for it, but hey, if I inspired someone, that's cool, because I get inspired looking at other people. And so it's like, if that works. But I'm so proud of my feed. I think it's the coolest thing. But I don't need anyone else to be like, that's cool. I can look at it and be like, I've done that.
Yeah.
Like, pinch moment. And I think that's important. Like, sure, attention, everyone's lying if they say they don't want any attention. It's just, we're
human
humans.
instinct.
So, yeah, we all want attention, but it's how you view it. Like I said, thinking about something as benign as clicking on the screen to show like, oh, he liked you. So I think work on your own validation as being like what you do. For example, I can look at my Instagram highlights. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. That's always such a life peak. I look at that as one of the proudest life achievements. And I think, very special coming out of that really tough mental period of COVID where really struggled for motivation and everything. So it was pretty emotional getting to the top of Kili. Just everyone went through shit, but I more or less hit sort of a rock bottom in my own way. But even just past loved ones, like you feel that, like you're so high on the mountain, and it was just a very nice thing, at the end of my year of travel, sort of being like, wow, I've gone to the summit, and yeah. So that was like a nice summary of the travels, I think.
And I think it's important to highlight it's your journeys, usually. It's 100% yours. And whereas, let's say conventionally, like, I don't want to shit on Bali. I've been to Bali, it's great.
Oh, for sure. I didn't mean to, sorry.
Yeah, same.
All the Aussies being like, dude, it's cheap.
But I think Bali, like, as great as it is, it's not it's a very, let's say, typical place that you show off. But let's say if you really got something out of, I suppose Kilimanjaro is also big, but let's say, let's just use a random example, a very unspectacular, unsexy place, let's say Tak, right?
Yeah.
That possibly in terms of the world, like it's a small rural town in Thailand that wouldn't really grab any headlines. But if you come here and you get something transformative or even useful in any way out of it, it's absolutely your experience and it's not to be taken away. So I'd encourage anyone really that you don't have to like everything. It doesn't always have to be this, let's say, key moment. But if you get something, it's better than nothing.
And it's like, I think talking about like working here, teaching here, all the teachers, like we all try and talk about what we're struggling with at different periods. We all help each other out. But that's the cool thing. Everyone's got a totally different experience. Like your view of TOP's completely different to me, no matter if you've been here since May like me, or I think you came in like August.
Yeah, start of August. Yeah.
And so it's like teaching in Thailand, man. Like I know that's the thing. Everyone would be like, oh, dream life, and like I am living my dream, and there's no doubt about that. But every day is not easy, just because it looks like that online. And like once again, I don't really care, but for myself, Insta's a bit of a journal, so I try and be transparent. And like I said, if you identify with it, cool. But yeah, for me, I try and I want to remember how I felt in that moment. Right, whether that's getting to the top of Kili at 7:12 a.m. on 8th of September last year, or how I felt a bit mentally delicate in Lam Prabhu, which was the small, really isolated town that I started teaching in. But I want to remember that because, like we said, if you're used to the status quo, you're never uncomfortable. You're not going to grow. So
completely, and also the amount of places in the world. Let's just say a ballpark figure. In fact, God knows. Let's say 10,000. I know there's more.
Yeah.
But if you get 10,000 of anything, 10,000 pieces of clothes, items of food, you're not going to like them all. So what's to expect that every time you go to, like, I'll be honest, I went to Hong Kong and I didn't like it one bit. There wasn't one part of it, bar the buildings, that I was really loving. But that's cool. I went to there, I saw it, realised it wasn't for me. Next one, whilst I went to Singapore and fell in love. So I thought, right, okay, like you have to try these things, and I think it's just that trial and error process. Like anything, there will be the low points. You might sometimes feel lonely. Life isn't always the easiest.
No.
But if it's what you really want to do, the travel, you're a hell of a lot better just rolling with it.
Yeah. And I want, like you said, I want my opinion on a place. Like, I don't want to necessarily listen to you, which, like, you had a totally different experience, like we said with the teaching, where we have unparalleled experiences. But I don't want to, like, have to listen too much to what other people say. I want to go to Hong Kong and be like, maybe I agree with you. Maybe you explained a certain way and I agree, but I might have a totally different experience. What if I meet, like, I don't know, 10 other different people, you know? Like, the world's funny. You might fall in love with one, you might start a podcast with another. It's a small world.
Exactly.
And some people like that can change your total experience.
I completely agree. I think that a lot of the time you can be positively or negatively influenced just by circumstance beyond the control of the place. Like, it's not, let's say, Thailand's fault that you met this person, or Australia's fault. It's just circumstance.
And, like, yeah, perception, circumstance, even where we live, right? Like, I don't know, we don't live in bad places. I think this is good, bad. Mine's alright, it gets a bit lonely, but just generally for facilities, like, a lot of people I think would be like, oh, you got, like, bathrooms, like, dirty. Not in the cleanliness thing, but like, oh, you don't have the best shower head, you know, really only have cold water, even though I think I have a water heater, but it's just so bloody humid here.
Right, yeah.
But that's the thing, I think learning to treasure that, being like, not even I've slummed it, but I'm open-minded enough to just deal with that stuff, I guess. And I've experienced that. Like, it's part of the whole package. I remember when we were studying TEFL in January, they said, you're not going to get what you want, but you're going to get what you need. And I think in multifacets of life, that's definitely really true. You know, you're not always going to get what you want, because life's not easy. No matter if you're doing my life, well, not my life, but, you know, traveling, you know, more or less all the time, or if you want your, you know, the job back in Australia, you're never ever going to have everything, like we said before.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's also dealing with it. Like, there are certain things that some people might be able to deal with, someone, and often it's about placing the importance of how helpful or hindering that will be. Like, for example, if the shower head's a bit dodgy in a certain country, I can survive that personally. I think, right, cool, I'll just, you know, shower. If the bed's a bit uncomfortable, I think, right, cool, I'm not at home, I'll get on with it. But I think at other times, if there is for example, I'm scared of dogs. If there's dogs everywhere in the area, I couldn't really cope with that. It's not really my personal thing. And others might have other things. But I think it's about, again, going back to this whole thing, curating it to what you can and can't do, whilst also testing yourself, which is a tricky balance.
And one thing I thought about, like, what you can deal with, I mean, loneliness you always experience wherever you are, but obviously when you're following what seems like your own path traveling, because, you know, a lot of people in the world do it, but sometimes it doesn't seem like they do. But that's a huge plus for solo travel for me. Like, some people be like, doesn't it get like lonely as everything like this? But you got to remember, I'm single, been single for 5 years. I do what I want when I want. Like, you know, Peyton and Josh and I and some of the teachers, we've done a trip to Chiang Mai, loved just the energy we all have around it. But some people you won't click with. So solo travel's such an allure to me, you know. And that's the thing, like, you'll think, oh, I'm going to Thailand alone. Like, I didn't know anyone before I came here. But look, now I've just got, ballpark, 15 friends, 15 teachers that now I know. And that's one thing I always say to people starting out, you're going to meet people. If you put out a good energy, you always meet the people. So I think you'll never be alone, but you'll meet people more in your lane. And that's what I struggled with in Sydney. You might have the closest friends at moral value, and it's okay to be like, we're different life paths. That doesn't mean you will not be friends, but it's nice to have maybe going back to Sydney and be like they're not the travel crowd as such. Like, you can go between. And yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up on that. And it doesn't mean you can't be friends or, you know.
I know what you mean. I think, there's a lot of, I used to notice a little bit amongst me, but also amongst people I was speaking to, the almost divide of people who stay at home, let's say, and get settled and married early, and like sweet people who love going on the travel path. And there always used to be a bit of a clash of, why would you settle? Why would you go travelling? Why would you not do this? And in reality, it's like different strokes for different folks. Some people will love going to Africa, Asia, Malaysia. Some people want to stay at home and go on 2 holidays a year. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. And I think big thing is like shout out to mum, dad, my sister, the whole fam, and all my good friends. Like they're so supportive. I haven't really copped flack. Not that I really care at this. Like I'm on my path. But it's always nice if you have a bit of support, and you know, especially the fam's always been there.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like
I'm pretty
it's
similar.
nice having your lane as well. Like people are always just like, even the students today. It's a bit sobering because I told them I'm leaving officially. I admit it was like a funeral in 6-2. They were just beside themselves. I'm like, guys, like, give me a hug. It's fine. Like, and 6-1 I think weren't just okay with it, but they're like, oh, okay, like. And a few were like, oh. But yeah, it's funny.
It's interesting the characters you meet along the way, even if they're students.
That's the thing, like there's all these little characters, and I remember, so when I leave Thailand, in about a month, scary, I'm gonna go fly and see my, I guess she's a great auntie called Lillian. She's pretty much granddad's cousin's wife. And they moved to San Francisco in America like many years ago, like 40, 50 years. She sent me an email, because we email every week, she doesn't really do video chats. And she sent me something on the train of life, which really intrigued me. And it's that like my train will be going, right? And whether it's death or people just going out of your life, people get off the train. But at the same time, any train stop, people are getting on. And I think, yeah, going along with our combo, I loved that analogy. And it just really made me
I know what you mean.
contemplate, because people are going, coming, and they're staying on the train or in your life for as long as they're meant to. And I trust the universe, especially after Nepal. Got very sort of spiritual like that, and just trusted process.
And even when, for example, you make that stop and someone gets on, they could get on in a few stops time. You just don't know what the universe has in store for you.
Yeah, I think I'm not really a religious guy, but it's more just if you're putting out good energy, you will attract that. Whether that's, maybe you're backpacking in, I don't know, Prague or something. That's such a fun city for just going out. And like, you're going to meet exactly the same people. I got great memories from Prague. And, my granddad was originally Czech, so that was another cool thing about going there.
Yeah,
seeing where granddad was born. But that's the thing, you put out things, you're going to get that. Just like if you're negative, you're going to get negative vibes, even from yourself. If you think negative mindsets, it'll be negative, and yeah.
It's going to happen. We never actually went on the start of this journey for you. Like, I usually straight away ask the guest about like their early years, but for some reason, like we took a different route. But can I ask you then about your early years? Yeah.
Probably nice. I think it's nice to say where you are and then look where it started. So I don't mind that. But yeah, I was thinking. So 10 years ago, which is like scary. 10 years ago, on September the 14th, which is it the 14th? I think it's a few days before, of the 12th. But anyway.
What is it today? It's the 14th.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
So, my 10-year anniversary of flying to Brazil. That's pretty, I didn't know the podcast was on this day. But yeah, 10 years ago, as a 19-year-old, I'm 29 as of this year, 10 years ago, I flew to Brazil with a company. The company who organised it was Antipodeans Abroad. They're an Aussie company, so I'd be surprised if anyone but Aussies knows. But I think in school, at the end, I was always probably thinking about the career more, and I thought, I don't want to go on a gap year, that's, it's not the real life path that everyone's on, because you're in that school, or school gets you prepped for uni. Anyway, I decided once I heard a lecture, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to throw a chance in the wind. Went to Brazil, September 14, 2013 until December the 7th. Then I think for about 9 days I went to Aguazu Falls and Peru. Unfortunately, and I don't know why, I didn't do much in pictures. I just travel naivety. But I did the Amazon, and randomly, just because not Antipodeans, but the tour company stuffed up and flew me to Cusco. So I've actually been in Cusco airport, but never to Machu Picchu. So it's like, yeah, it's just like, but anyway, Brazil was 3 months pretty much of volunteering, which it's really just a perspective thing. So I learned a week of Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, because they're the only or Spanish country, pretty much. So we did a week of Portuguese, taught English in a like disadvantaged youth before and after school, and that's not like mentally disabled. It was more like abusive parents and alcoholics, drugs. So that's sort of disadvantaged kids. But it's funny, 10 years later, I'm living out a dream I never knew was possible in Thailand. After doing that, I think it was 9 weeks of volunteering at the school, and then we did, I'm crazy on wildlife, animals, nature, and we did 3 weeks volunteering at a wildlife orphanage, which was renowned for jaguar breeding in Brazil. So amazing, like I said, I almost like how we went right now, and then with it, where did it begin? Because it's just crazy to look like it's literally 10-year anniversary.
Was that the first time you left Australia? Brazil?
Solo, yes.
Yeah.
So I guess this year's probably 10 years in solo travel. I've done a trip with grandma, which was really special for her 90th birthday. That's something, I think you never forget that. And now grandma's 99, hopefully this year, end of the year. But it's just like, even that 9 years ago, that's so special to do a trip with your grandma, who we've always been inseparable. She helped a lot during family, like hard family times, when I was growing up. But yeah, so special to do trips like that. Even a boys trip with Dad, 2018. Just thinking of those beautiful family trips. And you know, my sister's 22 this year.
That's cool.
21.
Yeah.
No, 21st.
Right.
21. And so she's done some lovely trips with Mum, Dad and I. We did Europe in 2013. So that was like April 2013 we did that. And then it gave me a bit more time to save up, because I hadn't worked through high school. A bit of a, not regret, just a hindsight, could have. But yeah, then gave me time to save up a bit before going to Brazil.
Excellent. So there's quite a few, I suppose, experiences here that have ignited some kind of fuse that you want to travel going forward. We mentioned 2020. Sorry, no, we didn't. We mentioned when you left Sydney, was that March
March the
2020?
1st, 2022.
2022, and you've been away ever since?
Yeah.
And that has included Africa?
Yes, oh God, I'll try and remember all the countries. So March 1st, flew Sydney to Rome. Bear in mind, I'm very spontaneous, like I said, sort of commenced last year, but I only booked my Rome hostel on the Dubai stopover. I'm like, I should probably book it. And then it was like full when I got this. I'm like, yes, got in. But anyway, I went Italy, did like 3 weeks, then I went to Malta, went to Greece, and halfway through Greece, I decided to do a spontaneous Egypt trip, which that's the dreams they're made of. Like everyone, I think, dreams of Egypt. And that was a time warp.
Rome, Greece, Egypt. All the empires laid bare.
Yeah. If Chloe Pickering's listening, shout out for letting me store my bags in her London apartment.
Excellent.
But that's the thing, you always need people you can, like friends you can rely on and help you out, and you can help them. But yeah, so I did Egypt. After Egypt, I went back to London, I think saw a concert, and then the next day I went to Portugal, then I went to Spain, then I went to Croatia. I went back to England for some rock metal festivals, because I'm generally, you'll see me rocking in the office to some riffs. I'm really into my hard rock scene, and you know, that goes back to sort of mental health things. So that was cool. And then I went to Morocco. The special thing about Morocco, I'd met 3 guys in Malta. And you know how you'll cross paths and sometimes you'll think about walking away? I admit I almost walked away, because we've like bonded a bit, and then I was just like, I was solo traveling. And one of them said, like, hey, where are you going to next? Something, like a question like that. And that's like, if you're ever thinking of asking a question, you should ask the question, because he said, what are you doing next? We hung out for that whole afternoon and then planned Morocco together. And it's like, wow, once again, small world being like, one question shaped. I probably would have gone to Morocco by myself, but yeah, V and Carl, thank you for asking the question.
Where are you going next?
Yeah, literally, and that was in Malta on that day, just, oh, what are you doing next? Whereas I think I was concentrating on like photography and...
How do you navigate this where, let's say, for example, if someone asks you that question, where are you going next, and you don't actually know, how do you, I suppose, navigate knowing that you might not know your next destination? Is there an element, because I'll be honest, there is a bit for me, an element of apprehension, thinking, what is actually happening next week? It's exciting, but there's still apprehension.
But it's apprehension, but it's also beauty, especially like I said, just to backtrack a bit, did 3 months in Africa after Morocco, and then went to Nepal. And during Nepal, that's when I slowed down and I thought it doesn't matter, like what I'm doing tomorrow. As long as I'm mindful, I make determined sort of decisions, like deliberate. Like if I'm feeling something, I do that thing. And I think now, like students ask me, and even the teachers, oh, you're leaving, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm flying to San Francisco to see Lillian, my great aunt. I really want to do Day of the Dead festival in Mexico, which I was thinking about doing that 2020 when I was working in Canada. But obviously COVID hadn't healed. So Day of the Dead Mexico, we'll probably vlog that, so keep an eye out if you like following my things. And then, I don't know, hang around Mexico. But that's the beautiful thing, like if I'm not inspired in Mexico, maybe I want to go to Costa Rica, but I'm also, there's so many options. Do I, see Day of the Dead, hang out in Oaxaca, that's where I'm going for Day of the Dead. Then I could go back up to Mexico City, I could go in the North Mountains of Mexico. I'll probably shoot to the Yucatan Peninsula. I'm not saying Cancun, because that's probably the luxury stuff. I don't want to have too much of a memory from Mexico. Because it's easy to be like, oh, I'm going to go get drunk in Cancun, but are you going to remember that as something really cool you did in years to come? But I'll probably eventually go through Cancun and cross the border to Belize, depending on the political situations. Because I know Belize, Guatemala have been a bit, not even unsafe, but unstable, but I thought that was more August time. So once again, it pays, not to have plans. Because imagine if there were political troubles and I booked Belize flights, Guatemala flights, that's when everyone goes, oh no, I have to change my whole trip because of the political troubles. But me, I had a draft plan to go there. So I think that's a huge positive for anyone who maybe doesn't think spontaneous is the way to go. Once again, it depends on leave.
It does, yeah. And regarding things like leave, I'm wondering how, I suppose an obvious question is how do you finance it? Like when you're especially going around the world?
I'll put it on the table and say, literally, like everyone, there's many people I worked with at a cafe and the Governor Hotel in Sydney to finance it. I literally say 50 grand. And a lot of people would be like, that's house deposit money, but COVID really got me thinking, and even the years pre-COVID, like what if I am dead at 50? I started thinking this dead at 50 mentality. Like, what did I want to do in the world that I've always dreamed on? I can tell you it wasn't buy a house. And that's where the decision came. Like I said, I went to like Egypt. I saw like the land of the pharaohs. I did a spontaneous Morocco trip. I did 3 months in Africa, which, I've commemorated on my arm as like the beginning of a false wave with like a gorilla looking over Kilimanjaro. Like, it doesn't get much better than that for me. And so, money is always whatever you think, but I believe it's meant to be spent, Especially I have no relationship, I have no kids, I have no commitments. I literally have no bills to pay back home, which, shout out to mum and dad for making that, quite possible. But once again, I've worked my arse off for it. I lived at home while saving up, but mum and dad wanted to schedule, I think it was on Tuesdays, we'd go out for dinner because they never saw me. I was that much at work. I'd do 16-hour, 17-hour days, like 8 to 4 at the cafe, 8 to 4 p.m. And maybe have an hour max break before driving off or riding my motorbike to the pub. And sometimes, especially in June 2021, I was doing 6 p.m. until 3 a.m. at the bar. That's after 8 to 4, especially on weekends. So it's all about, yeah, I lived at home, but I know a lot of people who live at home that don't nearly have that commitment. And that's not a sledge. It's all about what you want to do. But I ditched partying for the most part. And one like money conversion thing that, once again, I just tried to think of it in a certain way. So if I worked let's say if I worked a Saturday, right? Sometimes in Australia you'll get penalty rates, which is sometimes I think 1.5 for a Saturday. So I'd work at the cafe, let's say I earned $200. Then maybe I earn another 200 Aussie dollars at the bar. Now that's 400 Aussie. If someone who didn't work at the cafe I did went out at night and got plastered, did coke, which $300 Aussie a gram cocaine is in Sydney, I don't really do it, but like think about that money turnaround. So I've got 400 Aussie, but the guy who dropped for a bag of coke is already like minus 300, and then throw in $100 of drinks because Sydney is expensive.
I believe so.
So you've literally got me, I'm on plus 400, and then minus 400, $800 of difference due to choices, and that's what I put down to money. I make choices, and I'm a stinge, I'll stand by that, because I'm always thinking $25 Aussie a night for a European hostel, depends where in Europe, but that's what I base off. Every 25 Australian dollars I earn, which is sort of our minimum wage at most jobs, that's a night in a hostel for me, and I don't think a lot of people think about that. So that's a big thing when you're financing trips. Think about what it can get you, you know?
Massively. And also, you do have to make sacrifices, but it is worth it. For example, during this period, like, it sounds intense, like 16 hour days.
Yeah.
But I'm sure for you, like, you're thinking of that hostel in Europe, you're thinking of going away, so that must be driving you when you are going to be tired at work, right?
Yeah, but even sacrifices and compromises, they're two of my most hated words, whether that's in the relationship sense or just life, because like, you shouldn't sacrifice what you stand for no one. And I think that's, a lot of people be like, oh, but like, no, like, it's just like if I had a partner traveling with, you've both got to have your dreams, and I would never stop a partner doing anything, you know, and even, you know, my own ideas, I'm very concrete in like, let's go this direction. And that's, you know, helps being single, like I said. But I don't think it's sacrifices as much, it's just choices. Because your choice will depend on what outcome you want and what perspective you have. So maybe some people, I mean, I obviously miss the family, but video chatting at the moment, like I video chat them every week. I'm very committed to sticking to like a month. Like I miss them. But I think some people would be so homesick and be like, such a huge sacrifice, but I know I'll send them around the world one day. They came to Phuket, or near Phuket at least, in April, which was nice during my school break between schools. And that's the thing, it's how you look at it. You could look at it, once again, sacrifice makes it seem negative, whereas I think I have a very positive life now. Not everything's perfect, but trajectory.
Excellent.
So,
Yeah.
it's all about what you want,
No,
isn't it?
yeah.
I said, you want something different, but whether I'm a friend or whatever, I shouldn't stand in the way of what you want, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And even, you know, I have my travel plans in Thailand, and sometimes the boys will be like, oh, let's do it together. I'm like, yeah, sure. Because they're jumping on my plan to begin with. They're not changing them. They're jumping on. Like, we had an idea to go to Chiang Mai maybe, in, like, just when school's ending. But I was thinking about that before they mentioned it. And they might have been too, so we're not changing plans or compromising or sacrificing. I'm doing what I want and having people along me who want to do the same thing. And that's what, going back to solo travel, you'll develop that. Don't think you'll be alone. There's lots of people, you know, like you and I, like everyone, who want to travel, who feel a bit lonely in the home country, who want to escape. So you always find people.
And it's also about infinity versus finity, if that's a word, where I think of the amount of countries that there are, and I'm like, for example, even this summer I was thinking of so many places I want to, and I'm also thinking for next month, I'm like Nepal, Philippines, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh, can I get them all in? And I'm also thinking, like, I suppose, like, where does it stop, or does it ever stop? And the whole travel journey, because I know a lot of people, like, I maybe said my dad, who took a break, you know, when you're raising kids and all that stuff, which I can understand. For you, where do you see it going? Like, where's the journey?
Interesting, like I do online tutoring on Cambly, and I'll get that a lot because a lot of people are like, they obviously don't travel as much. But my thing is, like, does it matter where's it going? Like, I don't think it needs to be an issue of a question. Like I've said to people recently, I think now, if you think of a vehicle, like, I'm really confident now how to steer. You don't, like, I know I'm on this journey, but I don't need to have an end point because life's all about the journey anyway. I need a trajectory. Like I said, I'm really confident now steering. If I want to do a left turn and end up tour guiding, I know people doing that. I know how I can do it. If I want to keep going teaching, maybe I wind up in Central America, I can teach. I don't know. If I want to go back to Australia, that's the right turn. Bit of a U-turn, which, you know. But I think teaching is the default plan. And that's not saying it's bad or it's lower than anything, but if I'm ever lost in Australia again, I'm going to go teach, whether that's Vietnam, China, Taiwan. I think that's the thing, having, like, whatever people's careers back home are, maybe you're wanting to be a CEO, marketing executive, journalism, whatever, they obviously really want to do that. I think I just want to explore the world, man. We said it's a small world, but it's a bloody big world too. And I think, I said at the sort of start of the podcast, if you've still got that hunger to explore, don't like hide that or neglect that. That's one thing, even generally attachment, whether that's relationships with the school, like it's really hard deciding to leave the school, but like I've got this gnawing exploratory vibe being like, I want to photograph in Costa Rica. I want to see Day of the Dead because I haven't for the last 3 years when I originally planned. And if you don't do that and, like, you know, maybe you settle for what you think's comfortable, or maybe you get into a relationship, you lose that. And it's very important to hold on to that because you might regret it later. And sure, people will be like, maybe you'll regret not buying a house, but one thing I won't regret is the ongoing repayments and non-flexibility. That's huge. Like I said, I have no commitments. And hey, I might have been set up decently at home, but I didn't buy a car. I bought a cheap motorbike. If I was living out of home, I would have picked the cheapest apartment. Like I said, comfort doesn't really matter to me. It's more about, I am very money, well, I am money hungry. You know, like in a good, positive way. Yeah. But I'm hustling. I'm hustling on Cambly most nights, you know, after school. Like it's that drive, and that was through those 16, 17-hour days. I was fueled by coffee, but just that motivation. Like, it was above and beyond anything I could have expected last year was, but I knew, like you go back 10 years, I knew from Brazil, the hope of knowing travel was that good got me through uni. Uni was tough. I almost dropped out 4 times. I, you know, second-guessed myself all the time, but I kept holding on to how good I felt. I was so innocent and naive when I went to Brazil, but that feeling. I was with 6 other volunteers that we loved life. We'd go to Rio for a weekend. And then I got through uni, went to Canada because life threw me a change. Like, hell yeah, let's go. And then Canada got me through COVID. I was so low during COVID. But thinking about there's a bit of hope. I really struggled to see the light of the tunnel, but there was that bit of hope. And obviously the family is very supportive and stuff. They knew I was really struggling, not traveling. But that's the thing, when you want to be doing something you can't.
Sucks.
Well, it does, and everyone had that. It's not a me crying story. Everyone had that, whether it was you trying to pick up a career. But I think it's like a lot of my buddies were having their careers in Sydney. Like they dreamed of having it in Sydney. So I think it's hard when you look overseas and the world shut down. Whereas I think next time, I mean, I wasn't too fazed by the COVID thing. It was definitely serious at the start, but I mean, I was in Canada. I was never really worried. I think next, you know, I say next pandemic, hopefully not. But I just, you know, that's the world, isn't it? I think we're experimenting with so many things. One thing traveling is you do realize how beautiful the world is, but also how flawed it is. Because you're experiencing everything. You're not just being like, oh, like I love Australia. It's a good for, well, I don't want to say first world country, developed country. But like when you're seeing like any place, whether it's good or bad, it's like Egypt's like a time machine, Morocco, time machine, you know? Yeah. And
I suppose you always have to look at the whole picture. Where yeah, like for example, even Bali has its flaws. I hate to keep mentioning Bali.
Yeah.
You know, look, but it's the one. There are so many places that look great in certain areas, but everywhere has their issues. Of course they do. It's inevitable also that there will be challenges.
That's a funny thing too. Like obviously every country has their challenges. Maybe you'll say one's more dangerous, but I think people are always like, but Australia's so safe. I'm like, but dude, like I haven't watched the news, especially since leaving Sydney. I find the media quite toxic. Obviously there's good media. I don't mind. I think it's Vice World News. I find them quite just open-minded. I don't find them such an agenda. Like it's so easy to make a story out of something in some places. But I haven't really watched media. But
it's a good idea. It keeps you away
from
the fear.
It does, because I think so many people are like, oh, there was a bombing in like
Yemen.
well, Yemen. Like Yemen's probably not safe to travel to, but even you know, there's been shootings many places. I think there was a shooting in Thailand before I came out. And people were like, do you want to go to Thailand? I'm like, but wait, so on the news in Sydney when there's a shooting, I'm not shooting on South Sydney. There could be in anywhere, but usually South Sydney's in the news for shooting. So what, you're not going to travel to Sydney? Even though it's South Sydney, you're going to be, oh, Australia's not safe because there's a shooting every day. But that's the thing. Like places like Mexico, people are like, oh, shootings are more common. But I could get shot dead on the street in Sydney. That's what everyone seems to forget. Oh, Sydney's the best place in the world. Oh, it's a great country. I'm privileged. That's one thing teaching. I'm really privileged to have grown up there, speak native English and be able to have this opportunity.
I also think that too, the fact that we were both born in countries, and there are very few that are completely native, like there's us, Australia, England, Ireland, Canada, South Africa.
Yeah.
There's not that many, we were born in them, and as a result of that, we've been able to go all over the world teaching.
But even like, I think I've heard like some of the South Africans, it's pretty hard for them sometimes, and they definitely speak fluent English.
Yeah.
I know they have Afrikaans.
Yeah.
A bit, but yeah, like it's, I don't know, Australia comes from England if you like that, the convicts. But yeah, it's just really special.
Massively.
Like I think traveling will open your mind, and I've definitely been closed off and thought the pity me, like in my mind, but traveling, really you'd be like, oh dang, like they struggle in that country, or they're just, some people are so nice. Like thinking about Nepal, like favourite country ever. It's like unrivaled, untouched. Not to say that second and third are far away, but just the people in Nepal. Like I still remember my guide in Dhaka. I did 2 hikes with him. I did Langtang Track, which is closer to Kathmandu, and then we flew to Lukla, the most dangerous airport in the world, apparently, and did Everest Base Camp. And I remember like, cool, the treks were amazing. They're a highlight. But even just someone like in Dhaka, like he'd message me. I stayed in Pokhara for a few months, and he'd be like, hey man, where are you? I'm gonna pick you up. I'm like, dude, like I don't know, like I just had lunch, I'm a bit busy now, can you do an hour? And then he'd come pick me up, and he'd just take me to like, I think he took me to his house, where his family were, and that's so special. You know, when you're talking about where you come from, people letting you into their inner world, stuff like that, that's things I love the treks, the Himalayas are beautiful. They're one of the main reasons for Nepal, but the people, and shout out to Indaka if you're watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Himalayan Masters, if anyone needs a great company, they really looked after me, and Indaka works for them, so.
Sounds excellent.
Yeah, hopefully I'm in Nepal hiking again.
Yeah, it could easily happen.
Yeah, beautiful country.
I can imagine so, and hopefully go soon myself.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about the mental challenges, because we've spoken about the highlights, but there, of course there is loneliness. There is the idea, if you're prone to symptoms like anxiety, depression, that might flare up. Things will go wrong. You don't have the comfort blanket, and when I'm saying all this, I'm deliberately playing devil's advocate just to get the whole picture.
No, sure.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Well, and I've said that before. I think it's very easy to look at an Instagram and be like, you know, especially when they push only the positives. I said I've delved into mental health on mine. I mean, it doesn't bug me that I'm opening up. I've learned to open up a lot. But anxiety, depression, I guess, I think that's, you almost looked at, if you're just like, I've diagnosed, like obviously some people have it a lot worse. I don't think, like I've never been diagnosed, I've been to a few psychs and stuff, but ever since uni, pretty much after Brazil. I think such an innocent, lovely, just naive boy, right? Got ripped to shreds in uni. I questioned everything, you know. Maybe I failed this and went, I don't understand. Like, you don't have the support of school. And I'm not crediting uni with the start of that, but I think a lot of people go through. Like, uni's a hard period. My sister's doing vet science at uni, not easy, but, you know. But yeah, had my battles, anxiety, depression. Probably the lowest was COVID, but I think that made like last year extra special. Like I said, that hike to Kilimanjaro in so many reasons, whether it was sort of at the tapering end of the trip or just I've gotten here, like I can achieve anything. And a lot of the tattoos roughly have to do, like I'm reasonably covered, working on full sleeves. A lot of them have to do with mental health too. I got a lotus that's blooming out of, I don't know if everyone can see that. It's a lotus blooming out of blue water, but I told him I wanted to make it murky. Like I can bloom out of the shadows and make something beautiful. And Nepal was a reflection of that. That's why I was meditating. I was very peaceful mindset because, yeah, I was cherishing the whole year and being like, I can come back from, like, I couldn't see the light, you know? I think it's, not many people would talk about it, but it's sad when you like you're not seeing the beauty in life. I know males especially struggle with saying that, but if you just look and be like, not necessarily I'm going to kill myself, but you're not seeing the beauty of life and you're like, I'd happily like drift away. That's awfully sad to say. And like I said, you know, I was like serious, but not, you know, life-threatening. Lucky I got a good family, and lucky I've had travel experiences. I told you I hung on to them for dear life. I'd look at all my photos and be like, you can do this again. And I think, yeah, it's important to remember whether someone's living a dream life on Instagram, living a dream life anywhere, they've gone through all their stuff, all their shit. And that's everyone. Like, you've gone through shit, surely. Everyone's gone through shit. And I think that's sort of what I admire too about a ComebaCK podcast. Like, definitely honoured to come on, but I've listened to a few episodes and it's just so, yeah, nice. Everyone being open, chatting and being like, I came back from this and now I'm thriving. And I think, I don't know, I think even in music, I mentioned rock metal before, it's very confronting to some people, but mental illness is. And I think I don't shy away from that. Like, I will listen to brutal vocals talking about sad things, but one way, when I'm sad, that'll really be cathartic. In another way, I might be on a bus to Bangkok chilling, but it'll be a flashback of like how far I've come. Like, once I felt like this, but I have it all in me to come back. And I think that's beautiful, you know. I said with like some people going, it's like doing death growls. I'm like, yeah. Like, yeah, very cathartic in a music sense. And I think it's, people talk about happy places, it's important to have that safe place. Metal's been that for me. Because like I said, you've got someone vocalizing about pain and that almost makes mine go away.
I know what you mean. I think it does tie in when you have somebody who has those, I suppose somewhat can resonate, like, if you don't know the same. It releases my body like nothing else. And some people won't get that, some metalheads will. But that's a huge thing. If I'm ever down traveling, I have a couple of albums that are really sad, but I go to, and I can just lie, close my eyes, and be relaxed by that. Being like, I've gone through it before, I listen to this same album, you know? Yeah, I'm similar. On my travels, I have certain albums, certain books, certain passages that I just always flick to. Like, that always hit the spot. Like, whether I'm on a bus in Thailand or somewhere in India, lost his foot, I'm still, there's something that will give me that push on a certain day, which then leads to the next place and the next place. Yeah.
One, like, sort of, I don't want to go back to social media because I definitely limit my time there, but even curating your social media, like, I follow all these good quotes. Like, if a mate like you posts, like, I don't know, I'd be grateful for what it is. I know that's a pretty short one, but I might follow that page being like, I might get a quote out of that on a really bad day, you know? And even curating, like, you might not want to follow certain people who either post negatively or just are not aligned with you. I'm always going to follow my closest friends, but, you know, if there's just incredible, you know, like the lovey-dovey Facebook. But that's nice if you're into that. But even just, people are too political, this, that. Curate it to what you want. I want happy quotes. I want dope as fuck Insta content.
Sure.
Like, I want to look at yours and be like, fuck yeah, like that guy Connor I met in Thailand is now doing this. And like I said, it's cool to like, sort of weird to say, but to look at myself in that light, being like, I always looked up to people like you, like all the teachers, and now I'm there. It's not saying I have a huge ego, but it's just a nice thing, ego being like, I'm here. I'm where I'm meant to be, and I can accomplish all that.
Definitely. I think with the importance of we'll touch upon the ego, I think broadly, is that I've been similar, where I'd look at certain people doing podcasts and teaching abroad, and I think they're living the absolute dream. Like, I'm almost, in a positive way, envious. And I did it. I'm like, oh, well, they're doing this, and I'm envious. And it's almost like this hedonistic treadmill, where you're always going to go, oh, yeah, but it's this next one. There's this next hit. There's this next hit. I think it can be important to think, 4 or 5 years ago, you wanted to do this so badly. You're here right now. Enjoy it a bit more.
And one, I termed a word, just maybe it is a phrase, but in my own head, when I've been reflecting, politely envious. Sort of meaning that we say envious and it's like, oh, I wish I could teach in Thailand like Connor, but you've got to admit, like, I did that sometimes during the year last year. I was living the dream. Like, I was living the dream. Maybe mental health wasn't the best sometimes, but living the trajectory dream. But yeah, I looked at what people were doing, but I thought, you know what, like, I am living the dream, and I didn't deny that, I was. I had planned, even if it was spontaneous, the dream trip. Everything I always wanted to do, my bucket list, this, that. And I just thought, I had a friend, Sarah, who's an American who taught in the Canary Islands. I thought that was dope. But also, I think you can do that till you're 35, chuck it on the list. Why is there a point being like, I'm not? Because I think I was like in, I don't know, Africa. Like I said, going through all these dream countries. Malawi was one of them. Who goes to Malawi? So I think it's just make sure you're looking at your journey properly too.
Massively.
And like I said, I've really limited Instagram. Even when I post, to get out of that, like I said, I'm not like that with likes, but even just to totally eradicate that thought, I might put out a reel and I'll be like, log off for 1-2 days. And it just gets you in that, it's out there, whatever will become of it will. But it's not, like, it actually annoys me being like, Connor liked your reel, Josh liked your reel. And like it's annoying when I'm flicking through too, because like, bing, bing, bing. But also, to not think about that, I'll log off for a day.
Massively.
So,
when we're talking about travel broadly, I think I know what the answer is, but I'm still going to ask you, because, it's your story. What have been the main, let's say, highlights? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think you're going to say. I think you're going to say Kili, just because you mentioned it twice in a row. But, you've had many. I mean, it's a strange one, because I've been to 20 countries, and I know how lucky I am. I've seen you've been to 55.
55 nations, I term it, because, like, once again, people will have their opinions, but I classify as San Marino, which is, I think that's a nation. The Vatican is a nation, whether you like it or not. It's got a flag.
Is Hong Kong?
Well, so I've been to Hong Kong, and I classify that China. I was really young, but once again, like I said, who am I to tell you it's not? Yeah, sure. Obviously, there's the list of 196, but I don't know. Like I said, I mean, if someone tells me I've been to Dubai airport, like I have 7 times, you can't classify.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I haven't been to Dubai. I've been to the airport 7 times. But once again, it doesn't matter if you want to classify Dubai and you've been in the airport, that's you. That's your travel journey. Like, I just really don't care sometimes about.
In my early days, I would have clung to it. I thought, I did. I stepped out of the airport. I had a snack.
Yeah, but like highlights. I mean, it'd almost be naive to say Kili wasn't. I was quite mindful not to video the whole time, because that's one thing too. Especially, I don't know how far I want to go in vlogging, but it's like, I'm mindful to, even as a photographer, take time away from the lens. Like, I'm trying to consciously be like, okay, actually have a look at it. There's a lion in front of you with a carcass. Don't just be looking for the shot. Like, everyone wants the shot, and even on my like curated Insta, I want it there as a memory for me. But take time to look at it. But mate, Serengeti, this is actually a funny story. It's a highlight. but it's also funny. So I've misplaced my passport once ever, in the Serengeti, which is, I don't know, a cool place, I guess. It's not a cool story, but it's like a cool place to lose it. But Serengeti was amazing, until I realised, oh no. I went on a hot air balloon ride, which, once again, sick thing. And I realised a few hours later, I left I think it was my money belt. Like, I had my phone on me, but I left my money belt with, I think, probably $200 cash of whatever currency, passport, in the van. And I'm not saying the van driver took it, but I'm 99.9% took it. And yeah, ended up getting the passport back, lost all that cash. But I don't know, just as not even a highlight, but what luck. I was seeing the gorillas 10 days after that. If I didn't get my passport back, it was either an extremely expensive trip to Dar es Salaam, which is the capital of Tanzania, because, you know, Serengeti, for anyone who doesn't know, is really northern Tanzania. Yeah, really expensive trip there, or I wasn't seeing the gorillas. And I'm going to say that was my 28th birthday in about a week. That would have been a bit of a damper.
That would have been.
But like I said, I don't know, that's just a highlight of how life can work out, really. And like, you know, maybe your highlights don't have to be the epitome, like the wow. Like I said, Keely's one, but even just the general Serengeti experience. That's why I wanted to tell that story. I think it's a great one.
Yeah, no, especially from the outside.
But Nepal, man, I can't go past Nepal. I said it's my favourite country. Everything from the people, those mountains, that was some serenity. Right, they're like Nepal, yeah, doesn't get much better. It's funny, base camp, yeah, it's a highlight, but I tell people you actually walk down to base camp. Like you're above it, and like in Dhaka, my guide was like, oh, there's base camp. And I actually walked down this crevice, if you like. And it was sort of funny because you can see everyone grouped there, just like Kili, that's the Insta versus reality. There are 300 people. Maybe not at the base camp. Kili, there were 300 people in front of me when I'm late. And that's the reality. People would say that's touristy, but no, just lots of people want to climb Kili. And that's one thing, people will be nervous climbing Kili. Like, dude, a lot of people there. Like, you're going to have 300 people around you on summit night. Maybe for some people that turns them off it, but if you're nervous, just like the solo traveling, go. There's going to be people. And yeah.
That would be awesome.
I'm
wondering how you balance adventure versus, let's say, normality, and I'll explain a bit further.
Yeah.
So obviously when we're talking about travel, we can talk about the waterfalls and the gorillas and Kilimanjaro, which are all very adventure activities. But I think also with travelling, sometimes I've had amazing experiences wandering around a city, having a coffee and shopping, which is what I could easily do in Manchester or Melbourne or Vietnam. But I also think, how is it balanced? Because sometimes what I've done, I've sat in a hotel room at like 7, 8 p.m. and I've just been tired from the day and I'm chilling, reading a book. And I'm thinking, like, you didn't go travelling to read this book. Like, you've got to get out and earn that, if you know what I mean. And this is my mind playing a bit of a trick, but I also think that how is it balanced in terms of adventure versus, let's say, downtime?
Yeah, it's what you want. Like, I think you asked me, just like privately somewhere, what's the ultimate time to spend somewhere? Once again, that's an opinion. I used to think 3 days. Like any European city, I challenge you, I could see it in 3 days. That's not saying I'm an expert on it, but it's just, it's Western, it's touristy generally, it's busy, and like I said, I'm more in love with like Nepal, and I really want to do more Eastern sort of ways. But balance, like you said, maybe that's going for a coffee. I think it was random place that comes to mind, Paros, Greece. I'd been island hopping in Greece for a bit, and I think me and the girls just went and talked about life. There was another guy who we met, and we just had an espresso. There was no rush. I think maybe it's the day after we went for a scooter ride, but that's the thing, having that downtime and be like, I think that's the advantage almost of long traveling. You have more time. Because there's people, 2 weeks leave, that's, you know, unfortunately the main way of society. I have 2 weeks to see Greece, Santorini, Paros, like Milos, this, that. And even long traveling, I think I only did 2.5 weeks in Greece, but there was an option to do more, you know?
Big time.
So I think try and travel for longer. Once again, it's hard depending on the choices you make and also your job, what you want your career to be. But yeah, slow travel is probably the good answer, because like I said, take time to go get a coffee. Hey, sometimes I need to, I don't know, buy something, buy clothes, to repair my iPhone in Nairobi, Kenya.
Oh, Jesus.
That was random. This was funny actually. Once again, how travel can go pear-shaped, but people can be generous, energy will always come back to. So I'm in Nairobi, pretty busy city, not really developed where I stayed. And I wake up on the morning I'm supposed to get a shuttle to Kilimanjaro, which I think, lucky I'd been prepared and gotten it like 3 days before. And anyway, I wake up and it's light, and I sort of thought, oh shit, like I was supposed to be waking up at like 5:30 for like a 6:30 shuttle, and wake up, roll over, and my phone is on recovery mode. I'm like, oh god, like I've missed my shuttle. I like stressfully open the laptop. I've missed my shuttle to Kili. Like I said, had 3 days, so I'm like calm, because I'm an anxious traveler, even if I seem chill. Anyway, I walk through the street because my Mac, I think I preloaded the maps. That was the only thing I had access to the internet. So I'm walking through fucking Nairobi, holding my laptop, and everyone's like, what are you doing? Like, especially, in a bit of a developing nation, I could have gone mugged or whatever. And it's just, but I had no choice. I think because Maps.me is an offline map, so that's on my phone. Google Maps also on my phone. It's in recovery mode. And I was like, oh God. Anyway, long story short, what had happened, overnight, the phone had automatically updated, which I sort of hate how it won't ask me. I like to choose that. But it had updated. And while in Namibia, 2 months earlier, I was running, we were playing some football on the road, and my phone dropped out of my pocket, and it jammed the home button on the side. So I have an iPhone 11. So the home button moves from the top to the side. And that had been jammed, same with the volume button. And what happens when it's trying to update, yet both your buttons are jammed? It'll restart and just conk it. I'm like, So that was the reason. I said, it's just another funny story walking through Nairobi. I said, the looks I get were just like one, you're an idiot, but also, oh, you have a nice Mac.
It's a strange one.
Yeah, but just, it's funny. But once again, that's a bit of balance. Like it's not a long way to go around, but that's what I'm saying, balance. Sometimes you need to do things. Whether that's even looking after mental health, sometimes your body will be like, yo, like you need to take a down day.
Yeah.
So that was my long story.
And once it knocks on that door,
Yeah.
answer the call.
And whether it's your phone breaking down or mental health or giving a friend in need a call, whatever, it's good to have that extra time. That's why slow traveling is my jam now.
Big time.
Yeah, I'm not rushing. Even, what was the other thing? Europe's expensive. That's why it's 3 days. And you'll never be an expert. So that's my defense for, oh, you didn't see it. But,
Yeah. I like that. I also follow a similar pattern myself. Before we come towards the closing stages, I'm wondering, I suppose this might be tricky, like main lessons. So when you look at, obviously, a quite broad and extensive travel history you have, what are some main, I suppose, standouts? Is it take your time, be easy on yourself, make your own lesson? I'm almost paraphrasing what we've come up with throughout this conversation. But are there any main bullet points that you'd like to say before?
Just one, I think, and generally to life doesn't matter. Like, it will work itself out if you expose yourself to the right energies. Even, like, I just mentioned some really pear-shaped stories. It would have been quite easy to be like, oh dang, and totally freak out. But a lesson is just like, even in the Serengeti, the passport is lost or misplaced. So why would I mean, it's a big deal, but I'm going to enjoy my safari. And we ended up seeing a leopard after that. That was a bit of a, ooh.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, things will work out. I could have lost the passport, but I don't know. Experienced traveller, I've been in a few pear-shaped things. I would have gone to the capital, tried to get an express passport. So I think just one, it doesn't matter, it'll work out. I think two, sometimes you're in a mood not to meet people, but as much as possible, be open-minded and have a combo, because you never know who you will meet. Whether that's some guy you might do a vlog with. Even you, like having that combo in the staff room, just because I don't know, we could have not had the combo.
Yeah, precisely.
Like if we're closed off people, like oh, this new guy, I don't know. You know, some people might be like that. So yeah, talk to people, especially and pick the brains of people you're inspired by. Like I remember in Greece, I was starting to think about teaching abroad, and every time I'd see a teacher, I'd always look at the influencers doing it online, but you know, you feel a bit awkward messaging them. I had people in front of me like tell me. Like I was so like, because I saw teaching as a way to make money abroad. Now I've gotten into online teaching, which is my digital nomad plan. If anyone's watched my reel of like digital nomad world tour, but yeah, just inquire, ask questions. Like I don't know, I love answering people's questions. If it helps someone out, ask me questions. So
absolutely.
yeah, ask questions. It's just like you. Like I'm sure I won't do it on the podcast, but I'll ask you more about Vietnam. I want to go there. Like you're an idol in that way. That's the cool thing. People can be idols in different ways. Yeah. Like you spent what, 4 years?
4 years indeed. Yes.
That's the thing. But that's crazy because so many people would be like, not even comparing the pair, but oh, like Tommy's been to 55 nations, but I've never lived anywhere for 4 years. So it's like it's a different discipline. You probably be like, I wish I could go to 55 nations, but I'm like, but I sort of, that's what I'm pushing for now. Like the family is probably watching this, being like, but maybe I want to push for 4 years. Because one thing about Australia, I've had a very love-hate relationship with it, no matter the support that is there. But I think I'm just in a bit of a different lane. And there's always the beautiful energy in people to go back to, but I'm pushing myself. Like I'm full on the throttle, being like, this is the life you always looked up to people for. Do it.
Excellent.
Like, that's the thing, like I guess another, I don't know if you said advice thing, but go for it. Like, I think a lot of people are worried, and I have anxiety, like even as an experienced traveler, if you're like, I have anxiety constantly. But just back yourself. I think a lot of people say, what if it goes wrong in life? But I back myself. Obviously I got experience, but book the flight. You're never going to go teach in Thailand if you don't send that email to that company. Like, go with the company. Like, I went with Explore Asia, they put me on to Kids English Thailand, which is amazing. Try and go for the smaller companies, that's probably my advice, because they just cost less money, less handling fees. But that's the thing, send the email, book the flight. Honestly, I haven't booked a Mexico flight from San Francisco yet, and I'm looking at that probably October 22nd, what's the date? 14th September, so even I'm just not anxious about booking the flight, but some people, such an experienced dude, I'm anxious about booking the flight. Because, I'm just thinking, and I'm very flexible now. But anxiety and mental health close to me, but try not to let it get the best of you. Try and be positive. And like I said, sometimes I'm so anxious booking the flight, I'm like, then you book it and you're like, I'm going to San Fran. And it's sad I'm leaving the school, but go after your dreams, because I don't know, they definitely won't follow you, they won't wait for you, and maybe it sounds grim, but we are going towards death. You can disagree or frame it how you like, but every day we live, we are closer to death. So in my mindset, why wouldn't you live the best life you can? Do things, if you think someone's doing something proud, do it. I don't know, or go after the promotion you want. Like another brand, I'm not that way of life, but if you want a promotion, go for it. Make those choices. But I think I'm really on that travel mind, like full steam ahead.
Massively. I think a lot of the takeaways that came up throughout this whole conversation were about that, going for it. And even though we both connect through, let's say, the travel realm, I think it's very important towards the end that we did mention that. The idea of, if it is a promotion, if it is a house, if it is this, then go for it. You are ultimately the only and sole curator / creator of your reality. And
you're responsible for your choices. Like I said, I think you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you're ridiculously good with money, you got a high paying job, maybe you can travel the world and have a house. But I wouldn't expect or hope for that. That's a lot of work. I told you I saved 50k for traveling the world last year, but I don't know.
How long did that take you? A year or two?
So I came out of hotel quarantine November the 9th, 2020. Week later, I had an interview for a pub job, And a week later I thought, you're not earning enough money, go full steam ahead, get a cafe job. And I think some of them were just like, the cafe was like, can you handle 2 jobs? I'm like, yeah, I can. And they'd see me every week, they're like, how do you do it? I'm not saying I'm special, but I had that drive.
Yeah.
I'd be on 4 hours, like it sounds so fucked, but I'd be on 4 hours sleep after finishing 3 a.m. riding home, and then I'd start at sometimes 7. I'd be wrecked, but hey, when coffee is free at your hospo venue, it's not good to abuse it, but it helps. It's free.
No, of course.
In Sydney, it's $4 or £2 for a cup of coffee. So, yeah. And when you're getting oat milk or soy milk, like I do, yeah, like that's the thing. Working hospo, free coffee, and it worked. I told you I was that determined. People would be like, "How do you do it?" I'm like, "I have that drive."
The drive, yeah.
And yeah, maybe people look at that inspired, but go after it. Like, there's no use looking at me and be like, "I mean, he's a cool, inspiring." Like, do it. If you want my life, do it. I once thought I couldn't have it, so that's my advice. Go after it.
I love it. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed getting the
worries.
opportunity to have the podcast, and I look forward to seeing where our shared adventures go.
Sure.
Much
Very
appreciated.
humbled to be on. Thanks, Connor.